and welcome to Infrastructure Matters, a podcast dedicated to exploring the dynamic world of infrastructure, asset management, and public works. I'm your host, David Jenkins, Chief Executive of IPWEA. Today, we're joined by Romilly Medieu, the CEO of Engineers Australia, to discuss one of the most pressing challenges in the sector, Australia's engineering skills shortage. We'll cover a range of topics, including the strategies being implemented to attract and maintain engineering talent, the importance of promoting STEM education from an early age, and how Australia can better support women and overseas trained engineers. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's dive into the engaging conversation about the future of engineering in Australia. It's great to have Romilly Medieu with us today, who's the Chief Executive of Engineers Australia. Now, I've known Romilly for a number of years when she worked at the Sustainability Buildings Council and also at Infrastructure Australia, but now, well, not that recently, but she's been there at Engineers Australia making some great changes and great strides there. So, look, Romilly, delighted to have you. Thanks for coming along.
Thanks, David.
And I'm going to kick off with the first question. So both of us have talked quite a lot around skills shortage in the engineering profession. We've come at it more the angle around local government engineering. You've done a lot of work around skills shortage. Maybe you could just give us a bit of a snapshot of where you think things are at and what the future holds and how we get more people into the engineering profession.
Sure. I think the first thing to know is that the pipeline in Australia is definitely broken. When we look at the number of kids doing science and maths at school, and then we look at the number of Australian children doing engineering, the number falls year on year. So our pipeline is actually starting from school, even primary school age. We're very reliant on overseas born engineers, but then those engineers struggle with their own discrimination. Yeah. So just coming back to skills, what we've been doing is obviously not working. Yeah. We have to accept that and we have to do something radically different. And that's we're currently looking at an updated STEM strategy and looking at who we can partner with because we can't do this alone. But in that, we definitely need to see some interventions. So some of those interventions will be at school level. Some of those interventions will be like from the University Accord that is calling out that our universities need to be much more flexible. And some of those interventions will be workplace as well. But if you look at our economic pipeline, we have defence, infrastructure, energy. We can keep going. There's multiple massive projects happening and initiatives happening in Australia, Future Made in Australia, for instance. What is the common factor in all of that? We need engineers. Yeah. And so looking at our pipeline, then looking at how other countries also are struggling with their skill shortage in engineers, we actually have to deal with it in Australia. We can't keep thinking, oh, no, it's okay, we can rely on overseas qualified engineers. Yeah. So really it starts with attracting, retaining engineers, attracting them into the profession, looking at the culture of our profession. It's multifaceted, and in all those elements we are working across all of them. I'm on the Champions of Change STEM and Health group, but it is all of us need to lean into this. And the one factor I think that's really interesting is what do parents seek for their children? And we've just had a great research that was shared with us by another professional body because it wasn't their profession. Yeah. And they said when it came to professions, parents were now saying go for engineering. Right, okay. So obviously we're having a little bit of an impact, but it's going to take time. These results won't show overnight, but we all just need to be really highlighting the branding and the opportunities in engineering because there's just so many different areas to work in. Yeah. And kids want to make a difference. They want to be looking at the future and what they want to work in. And there's lots of roles in engineering that make a difference, whether that's in environmental, sustainability, digital data, placemaking. I keep going on. So we think it's an exciting profession, but we really do need to look at the branding and the pipeline to really increase the number of Australian kids studying engineering.
So I want to pick up 2 points you said there. I mean, because it is a coordinated effort. It's across tertiary, even secondary school, the professional bodies. Like you're trying to coordinate large different groups, institutions. So how, I mean, EA is looking to play a leadership role there, but how do you get all these different players on board about promoting the engineering profession?
It's been done before when you look at the Australian Sustainable Built Environment Council. That's the heads of all the industry bodies plus state government and federal government. So bringing coalitions together in a collaborative way and working together on issues has been done before, and we can take a lead in that being Engineers Australia. And so part of our STEM strategy is where are we going to get our biggest bang for our buck, who are we going to do it with, and how are we going to do it. And so that will come out in the coming months. We'll release that work, but really it'll be really coordinating aggressively how we can do this together, because at the moment it kind of feels like we're all tripping over each other and we're all doing our own elements in STEM, and that's not really going to get the impact that we need. And that also comes back because you asked me about the skills. So school is one, like the pipeline is one avenue, but the other pipeline is retaining. And what we're finding, for instance, is the number of women in engineering is still below 20%, and we're not retaining them. So 19% of them are studying, but we're only getting 16% in the workforce. So retention is also critically important. And again, we can do that collaboratively with all the other industry and professional bodies.
The other point you said, and I think it's a really important one, is the stories and what engineers do. And I think there's a place there. I think engineers, we'd all accept that they're the greatest problem solvers in the world. But we're not always the best at marketing ourselves in terms of all the different areas and telling the story of what we do. Because if I think of local government engineers, they do some really interesting stuff, and really add value to their local communities. How do you think we can be better at telling the story?
This isn't a Dorothy Dixer. If people listening think because of my answer I'm about to give you, that's exactly the feedback we've had. Same thing. Yep. We started a brand campaign 2 years ago. We used models as part of the campaign, and it was engineering making life happen, and we had a couple of TV ads and radio ads. And no one really resonated with it. We did have a couple of engineers in there like Vina from UNSW, but really no one resonated with it, and especially when we were looking at retaining females and attracting overseas qualified engineers and also attracting kids into engineering. And so we just re-looked at the whole campaign, and anyone can get on our Instagram page or on LinkedIn, and we were like, we have 130,000 models. Yeah. We've got our members there, and we've got their stories. And so then we were like, well, how are we going to work out who we're going to choose? Well, we also have our awards, and in our awards we do people and projects. So we're like, well, we'll just look at the people. And it didn't matter if you'd won just at a state level or you're a nominee or you won at a national level. We just went to the whole list. Yeah. And then we let's look at the under 40s because they're our future, and look at those that are doing really fascinating stuff. So we've got some really interesting sound bites, and you can download it. Just look at Instagram, as I mentioned. And it's really fun in the work that they're doing. And it's not because the perception is engineering is hard hat, high vis vest, civil, which it's our biggest college, but that's the perception. And we wanted to break that perception and really show the different elements of what being an engineer is all about. So that's what we're doing. We're telling their stories.
Great. Now, just changing tack a little bit. So engineering profession, like all professions, changing technologies, new ways of doing things. In our space around infrastructure asset management, there's new ways to do condition assessments, become more efficient in what we do. You've got to have an asset register, etc., and you can use technology to be able to do that and measure condition assessments of various different assets that you manage, etc. But obviously, you've got the purview of the broader engineering profession, spans chemical engineer, everyone. How do you see, from your lens and your viewpoint, how do you see changing technologies affecting the engineering profession for positives and the challenges, but also the positives now over the next sort of 10, 15, 20 years?
That's a great intro in saying it's positives. This is an opportunity. Yeah. But the other thing that the whole profession need to think about is when safety became a really big focus area, it just became part of our business as usual. Like safety is just an element of what we incorporate into our learning. Yeah. Now, same with sustainability. It kind of feels like sustainability and ESG is just becoming part of our vernacular. Yeah. Digital and technology is exactly the same. And if you don't understand it, then upskill. There's lots of ways you can upskill. It is not going away. And not only that, coming back to our skills question, it's going to help us. So AI will help us. because we can look at using AI in repeatable functions, whether that's project management, within the finance team of an organisation, making sure that we're collating all the information that we need, and we've just saved ourselves a person, or we've saved the time of an engineer that we can then use. So what are we doing about it? We're not shying away from talking about AI and the opportunities of AI. We're doing three things. We're doing a report into the impact of AI on the engineering profession. We're then going to also walk the talk to see how we can utilise AI within EA, and we've already started that. We've started that in a couple of our groups internally where we do repeatable functions the whole time, and we collate a lot of data. So we're like, well, if we're going to tell you to do it, then we've got to do it too to figure out what it means. And then also the other one is how AI will impact EA and ourselves. So we feel like by us doing it ourselves, we'll be able to talk more effectively with the profession on it. But if I look at the work that we did at Infrastructure Australia when I was the CEO there, the term that comes to mind in everything we're now doing, any projects, any design work, any problem solving, digital by default. We used to start up front and go, what's the safety elements? And now we start up front as well and go, what are the sustainability elements? The third element has to be digital. What monitoring are we using? What modelling are we using? Can we use robotics? Can we use AI? If we don't know about it, let me tell you, there's lots of people who have done it. I know that Cross River Rail has their own information centre where they show you all the 3D modelling and all the work that it's open to anyone's public, and it's all their information's online. But it has to be in your mindset. And if your team doesn't have that, get someone in and teach them really quickly to understand the opportunities of technology. And we saw with COVID that QR codes, everyone knows what a QR code is now. We didn't used to do that before. Yeah. Everyone knows how to use, the work around data, collecting data, how we use data. Infrastructure Australia really showed how we can collect all that data, project data, and then they created the market capacity report. So it really has to be part of your team's thinking, their skill set, and how you're going to incorporate it, not in the future, but now. Yeah.
And that's interesting. So even as a professional body, you're also looking at AI and particularly what you can do to gain efficiencies.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. And where do you think the sort of engineering profession is sitting with these new technologies? Do you think that there's a broader sense around concern? Do they see the opportunity? Is it different in different places? Do you get any sort of sense?
It's at the moment it's scattered across the profession. Yeah. So you see some really great infrastructure projects that are using it more effectively than others. Yeah. I will say I think the Scandi countries are probably more ahead of us than here in Australia. But there are, a lot of the state governments are really looking at the ways they can incorporate it into projects. Yeah. So if you're bidding for those projects, you're going to have to know how to use it. Yeah. The reason skills shortage is going to be here. Like we're not going to get rid of it. So we are going to look at avenues, and digital and technology is one of the avenues that we'll use. So I see it as an opportunity. There are challenges around AI, and there's challenges around the protection of data, how data is used. There's some illegal elements of how data is used within AI, and I know the government is looking at that. But where we're seeing large-scale firms, they're using it and trialling it in-house. So it's in a closed loop, which means that they're playing around with it, which is what you should be doing, is just getting comfortable with it and playing around with it. And then when you're on projects is working out, which is what Cross River Rail did, well, then now I've got all this data, how can we share it using BIM and other platforms across the project, so we're sharing data and the data's talking to each other. Yeah,
okay. Now, we're sort of moving around in big topics here, but so if we go into sort of the next area, which is very big, bandied around a lot, talking about sustainability. Now, I guess we're talking quite a bit, if we get into the specifics, we're talking a bit around green and natural assets and the use of versus hard grey infrastructure, and can you use green and natural assets rather than build a hard seawall? Can you use sand dune systems, whatever. But in terms of sustainability and you can take this in whichever direction you want. What's EA doing around this sort of topic of sustainability?
So we released our position on climate change a number of years ago, and then since then we've created Climate Smart Engineering Initiative within EA. And we're very proactive in this area. It's the engineers who are really the problem solvers when it comes to climate change, energy transition, and all the other elements that we're talking about in this area. And it was really interesting. We had our Climate Smart Engineering Conference last week, our fourth one.
Yep.
And if I look back to my early days at Green Building Council, and it was all about energy and water efficiency, like we're going back 20 years here, but it was all about energy and water efficiency.
Yeah.
The concepts talked about at CSE were alternate fuels, use of technology, community engagement. Like it was all these elements that were so different to where we've been and to where we are now. So it really is important to understand what the different opportunities there are in this space, and there are huge amounts of opportunity. I sit on the federal government's circular economy ministerial advisory group under Tanya Plibersek, and we were never talking about circularity years ago, but we've been doing circularity forever.
Yep.
Repairing something, reusing something, recycling something is circularity.
Yep.
So for those listening, what the key thing that has come out, and it came out when we were at IA, and I was talking about this at a Transport Main Roads conference recently on sustainable infrastructure. The key element is there's a mixed experience and understanding level across our profession. And you'll find that the governments have committed to net zero, the DGs or the secretaries of departments have committed, and then when you start going down further into the bureaucracy and senior officials, there is a very scattered understanding. It's not picked up on procurement. They're nervous about it. They take a conservative approach. And so when we're looking at large infrastructure projects, both at a local government level or a state government level, everyone goes, yeah, we're net zero. And then there's this space.
Yeah.
We looked at 30 projects at Infrastructure Australia, 30 business cases, and not one of them had picked up the impacts of climate change.
Yeah.
Federal government has now mandated that, so it's not going away.
Yeah.
So for local government, and you were talking about green infrastructure, again, there's huge examples and case studies both in Australia and around the world on what can be used if it's suitable for that area. But the second thing that really came out of CSE is also make sure you bring the community along with you. Really make sure you authentically bring the community along with you. There's so many different elements now when we look at onshore and offshore wind, all these different elements, making sure that they are on that journey when you're looking at whatever type of approach you're going to take.
Well, and in your travels, and I know that you've got various chapters around the world, is there anywhere in particular that you're seeing that's doing this whole business of sustainability really well, and areas that we could sort of, in Australia we go, okay, well, that's a good example. We could use, is there anything?
Denmark.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
So they have a green roof policy.
Yeah.
If I look at Copenhagen, it's just a mandated.
Yeah.
Because they have limited space for on surface gardens.
Yeah.
It's like any space that's not being used has to be green.
Yeah.
There's a waste recovery site in Copenhagen, right in the middle of Copenhagen, and it's got a ski roof.
Yeah.
It's a sloping roof, and you can go up the top and either go to the bar or you can hike. So people run up and down because it's the tallest hill in Denmark, which is or it's got a grass skiing, which is great. But the other thing is who owns it and runs it? Local government.
Yeah.
And they knew they had to turn their waste into energy. And I was saying, how much did the federal government give you money, or whatever it's called, they're probably a national government. How much did they give to this this initiative? Oh, no, nothing. The local governments, I think it was 9 local governments got together, and they just created a special purpose vehicle, and they own it, and they get waste they actually import waste from the UK. And then they have a recycling area. It's the NOx, SOx, and what's the other third one? When they test the air on top that's coming out in this waste to energy, it's cleaner than down in the car park.
Yeah, right.
And run by local government.
Yeah, go the Danes.
I know, and so and I think they, if I'm right, I think they are able to support 90,000 homes with their energy through this recovery centre.
Yeah, right.
It's amazing.
When and look, you hear different examples, and it is pretty cool what's going around the world. But what do you think the engineering profession in Australia can take to the world? What is it that you sort of go, The engineering profession here does some, what is it that we...
I think there's multiple. I really do. When you look at our large infrastructure projects, when you look at how we respond to extreme weather events, whether that's cyclones or bushfires or floods, and how we instead of taking a focus of build back better instead of build back the same. I think when we look at agriculture, there's a lot that we are doing in that space. The use of drones, I could just go on. There's just so much, and even in clean energy, I think there's been some great examples. When we look at green buildings, for instance, Green Building Council was created off the back of a whole lot of engineers getting together. In Australia, globally, Australia leads when it comes to green buildings and green communities. So that's one example there already. And the great thing about Aussies is, we have no qualms in calling stuff out, but we also have no qualms in sharing either. We're pretty good at really collaborating together. So I think there's numerous examples. I would say collaboration is another example. We're really good at working together. To solve a solution and then sharing it. But look, I think we're a unique country with our own unique challenges, but I think there's some great examples of where innovation has been key. You've just got to look at Black Box, Hell's Hoist. There's a whole lot of innovations that are ours already, and they're from our engineers. So, And
I think, you know what, I think that's great when you talk about the positivity of what we do here, because sometimes there's a bit of, you can we don't do that, but we do some great stuff. Now, I'm going to sort of come back to one of the comments that you made right at the start of our chat, which was just around some of the scary statistics about the lack of women engineers, and they're not actually finishing, they're not continuing, so the retention side and getting them into the profession. So what specifically do you think we need to be doing to get more women or female engineers, but not just females? When we're talking about a broader participation base, what do we need to be doing?
So it's also overseas qualified engineers, and it's also people from a diverse background, whether it's cultural or LGBTQI+, or it could be other backgrounds as well. One is it's got to be a safe space. We've really got to look at the culture of organisations. So where you look at organisations that have a high number of females in there, it's because there's a high number of females in there. They 9 times out of 10, flexible work arrangements. And I'm just going to be, I'm female and I can say this. You women, the caring responsibilities are on women. We are trying to change that, but really the onus is on women, whether that's kids or their age parents. If you want to retain them, then have a flexible work arrangements, and don't, try and bully them or make them feel uncomfortable about working flexibly. Women are really highly productive, and if you give them that environment, then you get the best out of them. And so, as I said, those environments where you see a number of women, why do they stay there? Because they can work flexibly. When you look at overseas qualified engineers, it's a safe space. It needs to be a space where they feel like they're supported. That their credibility and their skills are recognised. And that is a great environment that recognises diversity. And there's some great examples at both project level and also enterprise level where they've taken a really open mindset to a diverse workforce. And they've had amazing outcomes. I know there's some infrastructure projects in the New South Wales government where they've gone, we need some skills. There's some overseas qualified engineers that might have been mechanical or structural, but we need them in civil, and we'll just do train them and bring them in and put them on the project. And they're some of their best engineers. And they haven't gone, they're not from here. So I really think it comes down to being much more open-minded in the mindset and being very aware of unconscious and conscious bias. Also look at the leadership levels. You can't be what you can't see. So if you're a female and you look at your senior team and it's all males, what does that say to you? So you can have women in senior roles that may be working part-time. There's great examples of it. Or women job sharing. You've just got to look at Karen and Kate from Arup, who are leading Arup, and they're job sharing that role. So it really is learning from your peers on what's working, and there are some great examples, and we try and tell those stories all the time. And the other thing I'd say is I think we need to bring back cadetships, internships. I'm a product of that. I know that public works, it was basically how you got your engineering.
Yeah.
Like you might not have gone to uni, you went through public works. We really do need to bring that back, because I think we're going to retain not just women, but we're going to retain talent and retain the younger generation when they go, instead of just thinking, I've got 5 years at uni or 6 years at uni and do engineering, they might go to Charles Sturt Uni where they do 18 months and then they're straight into a job and they learn on the job. And so we just need to be really flexible about how we're training, educating and retaining our talent.
And look, many of our members would absolutely agree with that in terms of the cadetships, particularly at local government level. Big proponent of that. So what's in previous roles, in previous organisations, and I'm sort of coming back to this is related and also more around developing young engineers. So it's all related, but the professional bodies there did quite a lot of work on mentoring and using the experience of more experienced members to mentor younger people coming through the profession. Is that something that EA sort of focused on and doing a series of programs, or is it that's
in our what we're looking to for the future, because mentoring and sponsoring and championing is really important, and we have 5 generations of engineers. So we have all these engineers who are retiring, who have great experience to share. We can use technology with being really efficient in mentoring. So that definitely is in what we're considering when we look at our new STEM strategy.
Yeah, okay, all right. Now,
sorry, just quickly on that. There's some great. I know Property Council have done it really well. So they did 100 Women in Property, and it was a year-long mentoring program. Yeah. It's so successful. It's now 500 Women in Property, and I think they've done multiple years. Like we're talking thousands of women now, and it's been a really effective program. I've also been involved in surf lifesaving mentoring programs as well. So I'm a real huge supporter of mentoring, but you've got to make sure the program is set up for success. Yeah.
Now, we are a technical society of engineers Australia, and I think I was fair to say over the last sort of 6 to 8 months, we've been working with your policy team, and there's been some really great things that have come out of that, and we've sort of worked on joint initiatives, and I hope that we continue to do that. I think your policy team's doing a fantastic job. Now, where do you see the sort of world of technical societies? Because you've got a lot. You've got a broad church and membership. You've got lots of different interests. How do you think the sort of whole family can work together on some of these big topics to make sure that we're advocating to government, there's strength and depth? How do you see all that sort of working out?
I think it's critically important. So if you look at the ecosystem of Engineers Australia, we have 9 colleges, 27 tech societies, all the divisions around Australia, 6 overseas chapters and special interest groups. I think I've just rattled off 400. We have 400 committees. We can do better. We know we can do better in collaborating more effectively across that ecosystem. And the work that we've been doing with IPWEA and through you has shown us the opportunities of, combining all of us together for a better outcome, which we've seen last week specifically when it comes to some changes in the building reforms in New South Wales, where that was done with a collaborative mindset. Technology really is going to be our friend here. We have to have a sophisticated technology system, so we're making sure we're all working off a similar platform and we can share information and documents really efficiently, and then we know who's who in the zoo. So as we are ramping up to improve our digital platform, which we're doing, we'll continue to engage with our tech societies to find ways that we can collaborate together. But it is very much how can we do it together? We are stronger by doing it together, and so it's finding what works the most efficiently, and then we'll just keep doing that.
Okay, well that's good. That's positive. Now, just slightly, because I always think it's interesting to find out a bit more about you, the person. So very busy job, and I always think associations, they're their own unique, professional bodies, their own unique types of organisations. You've got a lot of members, we've already discussed that, but also the international interest as well. You've got chapters overseas. How, in such a busy job and a busy role, what is it that you do to sort of keep an even keel with everything? And I know that you're heavily involved in surf lifesaving, but what is it outside of work?
It's health and wellbeing. I think as you get older, you realise the importance of health and wellbeing. And as a female, what we're finding is the research into women working as they get older. There's limited research into women, exercising, competing. I'm in my 50s, so and working. And so it's been really interesting in the focus that I've been doing on I do ocean swimming, I compete in ocean swims, I do a lot of bushwalking. So I love pushing my body. That's my outlet.
Yep.
And with Surf Life Saving, I'm a duty officer and an incident controller. But coming back to being a female, I think it's really interesting is how far can I push for how long?
Yeah.
And that's, if I'm healthy and I'm eating really well, and I do have cheat days, but I'm exercising every day, then I find that I have the energy to keep going and to keep doing the work that I'm doing. And I hope that keeps me, that I can work into my 60s and 70s because I'm feeling fit. So I suppose what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way is if I'm feeling fit, then I feel like I'm fit for work, not just for life as well.
Yeah.
Which is why Surf Life Saving is so great. We have 30 of us at the club. I'm at Bilgola, and we swim all year round. It's a bit cold at the moment in the ocean.
Say,
it's a bit cold.
It's pretty
but
cold.
we swim all year round, and so it's really good because we all support each other, and we all swim Saturday and Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock, and then we use the Swell and work out which is the best beach to swim at. Yeah. And also we have to check the shark app to make sure there's no friendlies around. But really for me it's keeping fit. Yeah. But I do it in a team environment, and we also compete in summer in ocean swimming. Yeah. So and we're all in our 50s and 60s. Yeah. And it's really good. So, that's what keeps me balanced.
And how do you manage to do all that? Because of the travel as well. And I know that you've been doing a lot of travel. And sort of before you answer that question, just how you sort of interlink that with, because you've got the interests here of the members here in Australia, but you've got the various different chapters around the world. How do you sort of manage all the different interests? There's conflicting priorities. How do you sort of manage to navigate all that?
EA has a broad ecosystem, as I've described. The key element is our strategy and then developing a strategy in collaboration with our members. Yeah. We're a member-based organisation. We're a professional body. It's their voice and it's their work that we are advocating on behalf of and influencing. Yeah. We've just updated, we're about to release an updated strategy, but it's taken us all year because we've been working with our groups through Congress and other elements to make sure that we've landed it. And the key is that everyone needs to look at it and go, oh, I can see my place in that. Yeah. And it makes sense to me, including our international chapters. Yeah. One of the things we've been doing many, but Raj Asavaram, our new national president, has been doing these listening tours. Yeah. And we've been going around the divisions, the different special interest groups. I held one in London, and it's their voice. So we sit there and go, what are your top 5 priorities? But everyone gets a say. Everyone in the room gets a say, and then they all vote on the top 5. And then they go and weed down into looking at what are the elements of the top 5. And our role is just to write it up. We can't speak. We can't justify what we're doing. All we can do is just take their input. And what we've found is actually we've captured all those elements we do have in our strategy, or it might have been that we needed to increase the focus in some areas because of what was coming through the listening tours. But it really comes down to strategy, making it clear that people see where they sit on that strategy, being able to measure that strategy through multiple sources, whether that's member surveys, staff surveys, what community think of us, what the government think of us, and other elements, but making it measurable and also being transparent about it and saying what's working and what's not. Yeah. So it really does the whole element. What holds us all together is our strategy, our annual plan, and how we report on it.
Yeah, okay. And just last question, if we have this conversation in 5 years' time, you and me, where do you think EA will be? How do you think it will have changed, and what do you think the whole landscape of the engineering profession will be in 5? I'm asking you to look into your crystal ball here.
We did that as part of our new strategy. We called it Moonshots. Yeah. And really it's easy to answer. We want everyone in Australia to find their inner engineer. Yeah. We want engineering to be seen as the top profession in Australia. Yeah. In other countries like in Europe and Germany and India, engineering is on par with being a doctor. Whereas here, people look at professions and they think of lawyers, accountants and doctors. we want to leapfrog that.
Yeah.
And in 5 years' time, you want kids to be going, I'm really excited about doing physics and science and maths because I want to be an engineer.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to see. We want to see the brand of engineering change,
Yeah.
and everyone, hold our engineers in the highest of regards.
Yeah. That sounds pretty good to me. Romilly, thank you ever so much for having a chat with us today. I think I know your energy and enthusiasm is infectious. I think the engineering profession is in exceptional hands, and I very much look forward to working with you and your team over the next few years as we continue to develop things as well. So thank you. Thank you for your time. I know you're busy. It's been great.
Fantastic. Thanks, David. Appreciate it.
And that brings us to an end of another episode of Infrastructure Matters. A big thank you to Romilly, the CEO of Engineers Australia, for sharing her valuable insights on how the country can tackle its engineering skills shortage and build a more inclusive and innovative profession. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We hope today's discussion has inspired new ideas on how we can strengthen Australia's engineering sector and its impact on infrastructure. Be sure to stay tuned for future episodes as we continue to explore key issues shaping the future of public works and infrastructure. As always, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review Infrastructure Matters on your favourite platform. Follow us on LinkedIn for more updates and exclusive content. I'm David Jenkins, signing off, reminding you that in the world of infrastructure, every detail matters.